Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Jessica. I'm a healer and a manifestation coach, and we are Unite Inside, and we help people unite with all the parts inside of them. And in this video, I have a very important subject that I want to talk about that will help you in your own healing journey and also spiritual journey. It's about your limiting beliefs. And the reason why I'm making this video and the reason why it's important for you to know this truth about your limiting beliefs is because it's going to help you with your healing journey. It's going to help you to release these limiting beliefs. As we know, limiting beliefs can be very sticky and it can be very hard to release them. So that's why what we need to know is understand these limiting beliefs, where they come from, and why is it that we're still holding on to them. And this truth that I'm going to tell you about limiting beliefs, about your limiting beliefs, is going to help you to understand the fact that this is the reason why you're holding on to them, and this is how to release them. Our limiting beliefs can manifest as reality that we don't like, as a reality that we don't like. Our limiting beliefs can also manifest as coping mechanisms that can sabotage the life that we want. And that's why it's really important to understand them. And so let me just spill it out for you right now. And then we can unpack it. So this truth about your limiting beliefs is that you don't actually have them. What do I mean? Okay, I know that this sounds really weird. Like, what do I mean with the fact that you don't actually have limiting beliefs? You know that you do, because otherwise you wouldn't be experiencing the opposite of what you want if you didn't have a limiting belief. And you probably are aware of some of those because you're like, okay, I can feel that I have a limiting belief. But I want to tell you though the truth behind having a limiting belief and why do you have it? And what do I mean with the fact that you don't actually have a limiting belief? So this is going to be understood by you when I explain it to you in this scenario. So when you were a little kid, you experienced a certain circumstance that triggered feelings in you that you don't like. Like, for example, you felt not good enough. Let's say that your mom criticized you about something and you started feeling not good enough. Let's say that your dad crossed a certain boundary and you started feeling disrespected. Let's say that your mom spoke to you in a way that made you feel unloved or not taken care of, you know? So when that happened, what happened is that in that moment is that you just felt, you didn't actually, it's not a belief yet, it was just a feeling that you felt. You felt not good enough, you felt like you were not worthy, you felt like you were, unlovable, whatever it is that you felt, okay? And the more you felt that, the more there was a fear that was being created in you, a fear of the fact that you are actually unlovable. You are actually not worthy because of how many times you've experienced this fear. I mean, when you've experienced this feeling, it created a fear in you. Okay? So, like, let's say that your mom always criticized you. You started feeling not good enough. And so you started fearing the truth that you might actually not be good enough, you know? And so as a kid, you didn't actually think 100%, oh my God, I am not good enough. But you thought, oh my God, I'm afraid of the possibility that I might actually not be good enough. And so with that being said, what happened is that we created a resistance against this type of truth that might or might not be true. Like, basically, you were very terrified of these truths that might be true or might not be true. Like, for example, you were very terrified of the possibility of not being good enough, the possibility of not being lovable, the possibility of being abandoned, of getting abandoned, okay? So these were all possibilities that were becoming increasingly accurate. Like, the more you experience them, the more you're like, oh my God, maybe I am. But you didn't know for sure if you were not good enough or if it was just something else. But as a little girl or as a little boy, you you had to defend, you had to create like a defensive mechanism to stop you from, to stop this type of truth from coming true, basically. This type of possibility from coming true. And this is how your limiting belief got created, is by pushing against and resisting this reality, resisting this belief. Okay? You actually didn't 100% believe that you were not good enough. You just decided that you're going to hold on to the belief of not being good enough to protect yourself from being not good enough. Let me explain to you how did you do this? Because I know that this might be confusing, because what happened is that because you thought, oh my God, I might be not good enough, you decided, I am gonna make sure that I never am not good enough. So basically, you created a coping mechanism to protect you from, to protect that from happening. So basically, what you did was that you started either like whatever your coping mechanism was. Like, for example, if it was that you were scared of not being good enough, you probably started doing more, acting better, becoming a better person, becoming really nice, being very agreeable, because you really just want that approval and that love, and you never want to be not good enough for the people around you. Okay? And you did this not from a place of, oh my God, I am actually not good enough, but you did it to protect yourself from not being good enough. Do you see that? So it's actually a fear that you have. There's a fear that from a fear of not being good enough, a fear of not being worthy, a fear, a very, very intense fear that is created by a lot of experiences where you actually did not feel worthy, where you actually felt sad and heartbroken because of a certain experience. And that feeling, that's how you started becoming more and more scared. You're like, oh my God, if I keep acting like this, I might not be good enough, or I might not get love, or I might not see. It's a question of, I might not get what I want, and I might actually be proven that this fear might be proven to be true. And so I want to tell you, the truth is, um, the root of all limiting beliefs is fear. The root of all limiting beliefs is fear. Fear is the root of all limiting beliefs. All limiting beliefs get created, or you hold on to them because you're afraid of them. And you're not afraid of them for no reason. You're afraid of them because you've experienced an experience that made you feel them. You felt them, but that doesn't mean that they actually were true, but you felt them. And because you felt them, you didn't want to feel it again. You didn't want that to be your truth. And so you created a coping mechanism. That's what happens. That's how we create coping mechanisms, from a place of fear. We're like, oh my God, what if, like, for example, let's say that you were always rejected as a kid for being yourself. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be abandoned. That's the fear. I'm going to be abandoned. And so you have a belief, oh my God, I might, you have a fear that basically it creates that belief. And that's how you hold on to it. You're like, oh my God, I might actually, it's not a knowing, you don't know, but you're like, I might actually get abandoned if I keep being myself. And so that's how you start becoming inauthentic. That's how you start becoming, you hide yourself somehow. You only show the parts of you that are cool, or that people love, or that people approve of. Maybe you only show the part of you that's very nice. You hide the part of you that's honest. And, the list goes on and on. That's a coping mechanism of being a people pleaser, because you're afraid of being abandoned. Okay? And so when we act on these like fears, that's how the belief gets created. Because if you're already out there acting as though there's something wrong with who you are, you've already abandoned yourself. That's what we do, is that we actually already experience that fear within us, but without knowing. Like, our subconscious mind thinks it's actually protecting us, but unfortunately, it's not protecting us. It's actually making us experience that which we're afraid of first. Like whenever you're afraid of rejection, you already reject yourself. You've already rejected yourself. You've already decided that I am wrong, that there is something wrong with me. And you have to think that, like in your subconscious mind, you have to believe that first if you want to be protected from it later. Like, for example, you have to abandon yourself first before others abandon you. Because then, if you abandon yourself first, then like, if you just let it go and you don't abandon yourself, what happens is that there's like a possibility that you're going to get abandoned, and that will hurt so much. So you have to already do it to yourself so that when others do it, it doesn't affect you as much. It's a protective mechanism. And so that the reason why I'm telling you this is because it's going to help you with your healing journey. When you realize that the reason behind you holding on to your limiting beliefs is the fact that you're just scared of this truth, then you can unpack your trauma. You can ask yourself, why am I so scared of being abandoned? What did I experience as a child that caused me a lot of pain, emotional pain, that I'm trying to avoid? A lot of times we're just trying to avoid emotional pain that we've experienced as a child due to already experiencing that we want to like protect ourselves from it by holding on to it. We hold on to the trauma, to the pain. We hold on to all of that because we think if we hold on to it in the future, at least we know that it's going to happen. At least we can predict that it might happen. But when we do this, we actually manifest situations where we are going to be abandoned. That's what we didn't understand as a child, is that if you hold on to a certain belief or a certain image of who you are, you will manifest it. You know, it's not actually protective of you. It's gonna be the very thing that's gonna manifest what you don't like. That's why people that are afraid of abandonment, they get abandoned. That's why people that are so afraid of not being good enough, they always find themselves in situations where they don't feel good enough. That's why people that, like feel as though they are not worthy of things, they don't end up getting them. But the thing is, we think as though by holding on to these limiting beliefs, by holding on to these things about ourselves, that's protecting us from getting hurt by them. But the thing is, that's actually not true, because who knows that we're going to have the same experience every day. The only reason why we have the same experience every day is because we decide to hold on to it. So it's time to let go of your fears. That's why I gave you this knowledge. That's why I gave you this truth about them, is that we're just so afraid, is the thing. And that's because we're not afraid for no reason, though. I'm not saying, oh, we're afraid, we have to stop being afraid. That's not how it works. We're afraid because we've been hurt. When I say that you felt it before, you felt not feeling good enough, and you don't want to feel it again. You felt unworthy, and you don't want to feel it again. You don't want that to be the truth of who you are, too. And so, sitting with these parts of you that are terrified, that are hurt, it hurts to feel abandoned, it hurts to feel disconnected, it hurts to feel unworthy. And so you have to sit with these parts. I have videos about sitting with your pain and how to properly heal your trauma. All you have to do is go to my other videos. There's a video that says how to heal your trauma the right way. That's a really powerful video. Also, another one about how to heal other types of feelings, emotions like shame, guilt, and other types of emotions that we hold on to. Go and watch those videos if you're ready to heal your trauma. Also, I want to talk about, since I've mentioned shame, guilt, and any other emotions, I also want to say that the very reason why we hold on to these feelings of shame, guilt, and we still hold on to them is because actually some of these emotions that we're holding on to are serving a part of our ego. And I'm going to explain to you why. Why is it serving a part of our ego to hold on to these emotions? So let's talk about from my own experience. I had a lot of guilt in my experience of going through trauma. And it was like a lot of guilt that I've experienced in my life. And I didn't know why I was having all this guilt. I was feeling so guilty. Guilty for setting boundaries, guilty for existing, guilty for being myself, guilty for having something that I want. And I didn't know why I was feeling all this guilt until I realized that myself actually held on to that guilt for a reason. It was because my inner child did this on purpose, because it was the only way for me to feel some power. Let me explain to you how. So, when I was a little girl, I was in a situation where I was being abused. And so that abuse was so bad that I felt very, very, very powerless. I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't figure out why I was going through that abuse because I knew I didn't do anything wrong. And so I started trying to stand up for myself, trying to scream, yell, assert boundaries, and all of that. But every time I would do that, they would punish me. It didn't work. I tried, I spoke, I screamed out loud. I tried to hold them accountable to see that they are wrong, that they shouldn't abuse me. But they still didn't understand. I was trying to get them to respect me, but they only disrespected me further. So there was nothing I could have done in that situation that could have made me feel any power. So I felt very pathetic and very much like a victim. And I didn't want to, it didn't make sense to me for me to be a victim because I didn't do anything wrong. For me to be abused, I didn't do anything wrong. And so the only way for me to feel that things are fair, because that truth was like shattering me, it was killing me, it was hurting me. I couldn't live with it. I couldn't live with the truth that I didn't do anything wrong. I am a really beautiful and good person, but I was still being abused. And so, because I couldn't live with it, I decided that I'm going to create a scenario. I'm going to create a belief in my mind, or I'm going to see things differently. I'm going to tell myself that maybe I have something to do with it. And that's what I did. I told myself that maybe I have something to do with it. Maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I do make mistakes. Maybe I was being wrong. And because my abuser back then was actually telling me stuff like that, they were blaming me for things. I took their word for it and I thought, okay, maybe they're right. And the reason why I did that, not because I thought they were right and I started doubting myself. Actually, when I was going through my trauma deep down, I knew that I did nothing wrong. I knew it deep down. But because I couldn't live with the fact that I didn't do it, doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I go through all this pain? I started rationalizing it. My mind started rationalizing it. If I am going through this abuse, then maybe I deserve it. You know? Just so that I can live with it, just so that I can be okay with it. It's like a coping mechanism. I did this as a child. So I started telling myself, maybe I am not perfect. Maybe I need to work on myself. And that made me feel better. It gave me a relief that, oh my God, if I start making changes and being more nice and being even more quiet and being even more of a good person, they might stop abusing me. That gave me hope because that was my only hope. I couldn't hold them accountable. They weren't going to change. I couldn't do there was nothing that I could have done in regards to making them and holding them accountable as a little girl. And so because of that, what happened is that I found a new power or a new found, like freedom or relief due to actually guilting myself. So I held on to the guilt. I let myself feel that guilt, and I hold on to. I was holding on to that guilt because it was my reminder that there's something that I can do about that situation. I created this part of myself. I fragmented and I created this part of myself that was blaming me from the inside. And that part really wanted to feel powerful. That part really wanted something to be done. It didn't want to be hurt anymore. It was very, very hurt and very, very upset, very, very mad at them. But that didn't work. Being mad at them only got me punished more. And so that part started becoming mad at me instead, because then I can do something about it. And that's what I did as a little child. I started walking on eggshells and all of that, because at least that protected me somehow in that situation. That protected me because then at least that reduced how much pain I was gonna experience, you know? So that's basically just an example of how guilt was a way for myself, for my inner child self, to protect itself. And so, with this being said, you can dig into every single emotion that you have, and you can ask that emotion, why are you still here? Is it because you're trying to protect me? Are you, for example, is your shame here because it wants to shame you first before others shame you? There's always a part of you that is doing something to protect you. And by sitting with yourself, talking to yourself, and getting in contact with all these parts inside of you, you can actually figure out which part is doing this to you, which part is creating the shame inside of you, which part is creating the guilt inside of you. Because you can't have an emotion unless if there is a part of you that is creating it. Same with fear. If you have fear, there's a part of you that is anxious, that is afraid, that is creating that fear, anxious, and it's creating these thoughts that are creating this fear in you. And so that's how to basically become more aware of what these parts of you are doing that are creating more guilt, more shame inside of you, and that are actually holding on to limiting beliefs that are not serving you. Because if you hold on to these limiting beliefs, like I said, they're going to manifest in ways that you don't like. And you want to reach the root reason why you're still holding on, which is fear, being afraid. So, with this being said, the reason why you're holding on to the fact that you're not worthy is because your mind want to protect you from not being worthy. And by believing that you're not worthy already, you get to become more careful in your life, which will lead to you not experiencing not being worthy. That's what your mind thinks it's doing. But that's not actually going to work, because if you hold on to it and if you take action and create coping mechanisms from this place, it's actually going to only lead to reinforcing those beliefs, those limiting beliefs. A lot of our coping mechanisms actually reinforce these limiting beliefs. I'm going to give you an example. Like, for example, let's say that you don't want to be abandoned, and so you abandon yourself first. You don't speak up, you don't set boundaries, and that sets you up to manifest being in relationships with people that don't want to listen to you, that don't have anything to do with taking care of your best interest. And that's your vibrational match. And unfortunately, you are being a people pleaser so that you won't be abandoned, but unfortunately, you will find yourself in situations with people that will abandon you due to your coping mechanism. Okay? Because your coping mechanism has that vibration of fear, being afraid of this type of thing. Okay? And therefore, what you're afraid of, you manifest. Okay? So I hope that this video helped you, and I really want you to start to heal. If you like this video, you can leave a like, comment, and share it with people that you think will benefit from it. And remember, the root of all limiting beliefs is fear, and release them, let them go, talk to them, let them go. So if you want to work with me personally, you can find the link of my Facebook. It's in the info part of the video. And so if you click there, you can find my Facebook. You can contact me through Messenger, and I will be happy to go on a journey with you and get you on my program, and we can actually heal, manifest, and unite with all the parts inside of you. Okay? So if this sounds exciting, go ahead and do it. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.